In this series, lowimpact.org talks with people working to build a mutually owned, democratic, decentralised economy that builds community and doesn't destroy nature. We want to increase collaboration to bring about system change. Find links to the sites mentioned in the videos in the description below. Join the conversation by liking, commenting and subscribing to our channel.
Welcome to the Low Impact TV podcast. Today I'm talking with Chikara Shimasaki, who's building a climbing commons in Stroud. Welcome, Chik.
Hi, Dave.
Nice to have you here. Yeah, I'm really interested in what you're up to with this climbing commons. But before we talk about what you're doing, I guess my first question is, what's the problem you're trying to solve? What's your motivation?
Climbing Commons was set up when I started to get involved with the Stroud Commons, and when I began to understand the funding model of future use credit, I recognized that in climbing, people buy monthly, yearly passes, and it's basically like paying for future use. But I thought that if it's small enough on a community level, that you could get enough people to buy 1 year, 2 years worth of climbing passes, and that might be enough to build a climbing gym.
So there isn't a climbing gym in Stroud?
There isn't a climbing gym in Stroud, and people are driving half an hour to an hour to different locations, which takes about half an hour to an hour each way, and paying 12, 13, 15 pounds each time to climb. And I've got a young family, and I just can't afford that time or the money to go and climb frequently. And so if I could set one up in Stroud where I can cycle or walk to, and it's affordable, then I thought it'll do a good job of meeting the needs of my needs. But it turns out that there's a lot of people who want it. And this came out as a sort of follow through and of the project. So initially, I just spoke to a few people about the idea, and we had about 4 or 5 people plugging into the idea, and that started to roll the project forward. And soon we realized that we need some more data, and so we created a survey and distributed it on Saturday markets and
Data about how many people would want a climbing gym in Stroud?
yeah, and much finer details too. So how much are people willing to pay for a climbing gym? What would they like to see? Is it bouldering? Is it food and beverage? What is important to the people in Stroud? How frequently they would use the gym, and the distance from everyone. So we asked for a postcode, which then determines the sort of distribution of the climbers in Stroud and where to position the climbing gym for it to be as accessible as possible for everyone.
But you're not talking about any old climbing gym, are you? You're talking about a commons climbing gym, a community-owned
Yeah,
climbing gym.
yeah. So the idea of it was that if we can crowd fund the build out of the climbing gym, that we should be able to reduce the entry price. And from the get-go, the sort of main theme of the vision was accessible climbing for all. We know that climbing gyms are very expensive. It's only accessible by a certain socioeconomic groups, and that so many people are excluded from it just because of its high price point, and the distance that you have to travel to get there. So by commoning it, we realized that we can bring down the price quite considerably, and a few sort of new ideas and innovations have made it possible to bring it down to about half the price of for-profit gyms.
How do you do that? How would owning it via the community, via the commons, reduce the price?
Yeah, so the reducing well, so first of all, the size of the climbing gym matters, and the crowd-funded amount can afford roughly sort of 600, 700 square foot of space in Stroud at the moment. We're hoping to sort of strategically scale up slowly, but the size of it means that the actual capital required is quite small, and the number of users that can accommodate is just enough that it can sort of be affordable. The community ownership aspect of it and crowdfunding aspect of it reduces interest payments or any risks associated with getting loans out, which could become more than the actual capital. And I think the biggest reduction came from us seeing that there are key card access gyms globally, loads around different countries, but none officially in the UK. There are key card access gyms, but they're not
So
officially
this is unstaffed.
unstaffed climbing
You just
gyms.
turn up with a key card and you can let yourself in and
Yeah, yeah. And what that does is the cost and the risk of employing someone is reduced. We will still have open hours where I will be there and other core members will be there, and people from the public can come and use the facility. But at different hours, it will only be accessible through keycard. And this massively reduce the overhead and expenditure to then make the facility affordable. And we negotiated with two or three insurance companies for about 6 months to get to a point where we got it through. And
and what's different about the idea, the commons idea? Who will own the gym? How does it work?
So at the moment, we are a small group of core group of about maybe 6, 7, 8 people that have been pulling the project through. And below it, there's the sort of volunteer group that is in the WhatsApp group of about maybe 70, 80 people. And then the
70 or 80 people. Okay.
70, 80 people, yeah, of electricians, builders, all sorts of different people with different skills that are waiting for the project to kickstart, and then they can sort of chip in when they need to. There's a lot of experienced climbers, people with networks in climbing industry, all sorts of great people in there. And then there's the wider public who will come and use it. The survey lifted about 620 people, and I'm sure there are more in Stroud. Once it transitions to full commons governance, then the core group will become the stewards that will oversee the operation of the climbing gym. The users who will
So the
come in.
stewards will be sort of the employees of the gym.
It depends on how well that model develops. At the moment, it will likely be volunteer run. From year 2, year 3, we'll probably transition to some of it being paid to staff the facility. But we'll see. We'll see how it transitions. The the governance of it is interesting, and we haven't done this before, and it'll be sort of a gradual transition, but we're hoping to have user group, the stewards group, and we haven't specifically have an investor group as such, but if we do begin to get more external interest, then the investor group may be set up. And the custodian group will be there to make sure that the assets do not get sold out of the commons ownership. But
And how do you choose the custodians?
so they need to be external, so they're not involved either in the operation, the use of it, or as an investor. So a third party that understands the commoning model enough to be able to veto any community-led decisions that jeopardize the commons.
Right, so they mustn't have any vested interests.
No vested interest. That's right.
So
Yeah.
how are they chosen? Would they be more on the sort of experience climbing side of things, or the common side of things?
I think commons side of things. The climbing side of things is, I don't think it needs to be a climber. It's more about understanding Ostrom's principles, understanding the value of commons, and being able to discern what would lead to what would be a risk to the commons moving forward in the longer run. So someone with business sense would be good. Someone with understanding of commons, and we'll see. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. But first, at the moment, for the foreseeable future of about a year, we'll be focusing on just building it and getting it up and running.
And when it's built, I guess people are going to want to know. They're going to want to ask, who owns it? You know, your run-of-the-mill climbing gym will be owned by a company, or who owns this?
Yeah. So it'll be the Climbing Commons with the stakeholders. So it's a multi-stakeholder organization. The steward is a company limited by guarantee, but the company would not own the gym or the assets like holds and mats. It would be owned by the association. And so if the business side of it fails, i.e. the company, then the assets will remain in the community ownership. So
In perpetuity?
in perpetuity.
Right. So
And
it's always going to be
so
it's always going to be commons owned.
yeah. The thing that makes it so in climbing, the assets like the mats and holds and the plywood, they have a pretty fast depreciating curve. So the value of it reduces rapidly within sort of 2 to 5 years. And so the perpetuity aspect of it is more relevant in housing and other assets where the value will continue to hold itself for tens, if not hundreds of years. But I think as a principle, it makes sense to protect the assets, and that if the business goes bust, that the assets can be distributed to local schools or any other areas where we could where there could be benefits.
Because you don't want to get volunteers working to build a commons business, a commons climbing gym in this case, only for it to be bought by some big corporation later on, further down the line, and taking money out of Stroud. You want to keep the wealth in Stroud.
Yeah, that's the key idea. Right now, money is bleeding out of the climbing people out of Stroud Town, but by putting it here, it sort of circulates the money in Stroud. And what was interesting was that there is a big climbing gym being set up about 25-minute drive away in Birdlip. But from early on, we've been in conversation with them, and we're positioned as complementary to a big for-profit gyms. And this is an interesting aspect of it, is that because we're a small for non-profit with half-price entry, it acts as a entry funnel for new climbers to try out and access the sport. And once they develop into a climber and the climbing becomes a passion, they can then go and use the large for-profit gyms close by. And so it becomes and if we can position ourselves so close to for-profit gyms and work in partnership, so they've offered to lease us their holds,
Right.
and we're thinking about maybe setting up a joint membership. So one membership then allows access to the larger gym, for example, and then that becomes replicable in any other community moving forward. Even if you have a large gym within 25-minute drive away, you can set this up and it actually works together.
Right. So they're not hostile towards you. They don't see you as competition.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
So tell us about this project. So you know, how far have you got and what's happening? What successes have you had?
So we've been at this for about 2 years, and it's been a long journey, longer than I thought. Um, the the group really began to accelerate when we found a location, an industrial unit between Stroud and Nailsworth. The the design process went ahead, all of the costing, everything came together. But the crowd-funded amount was just enough to build about 70% of the walls that we envisioned, and then operate for 2 to 3 months, which for some of us, we we thought that maybe in the 2 3 months we could start to bring in more people, because we knew that there was a lot of people who were waiting by the sidelines for it to be open before they actually put money in. But in the end, we decided to back away from it due to um, risks involved in it. So from then we began to recalibrate and consider grant funding to plug that hole, but also that the in order for us to apply for grants, we needed a location. So that it was a catch-22 where if
Yeah.
you haven't got grants, you can't really get a location, and so on and so forth. Um, And recently, we've been in touch with the Grace Network, the Long Table, which is a local social impact organization who managed to get a long-term lease on their big property. And we've handed in a proposal to see if they would accept us. We're waiting for a response, but if they do, then there'll be a really good landlord that can help us set the pilot up and move forward and trial some of the innovation that's gone into it.
And did you say you managed to get a grant?
So we applied for Unlimited, which is a charitable organization that funds social impact startups and providing business support, advice, training, and grants. And we managed to get to a panel meeting stage. And I think there's a pretty high competition just to get to the panel meeting. So we're hopeful that we'll get that. And once
How much?
I think this was for 8 grand,
8 grand. And have
which
you
is not
raised?
enough,
Yeah.
but it's a start. And they don't mind if we don't have a location, which is a big component there. Once the long table agrees to host us, then we can then shift to getting a draft lease, and that then allows us to apply for other grants available.
And so, have you raised money from investors, climbers?
For climbers, yeah, we raised 20,000. About 18,000 of that came in about 5 days. So we were pretty successful in that respect. And Stroud has actually um, has got a crowdfunding platform part funded by the district council. And round two of it is happening in February, March timeframe. So we'll definitely apply for that. And we're very well positioned to do so and get the fund. Because we've already crowdfunded, we can show and evidence the community engagement and the desire for the community for this to happen. And we think that by positioning ourselves in the Brimscombe Mill long table setup, that we will be able to access a much wider pool of people who may then add capital towards this project. So we're hopeful and we're gradually lining things up. Yeah.
And so the investors, for their money, they get passes or vouchers for climbing in the future, either individual sessions or annual passes, or what do they get?
Yeah, so at the moment we've got the annual unlimited. So you can come and climb anytime you like, as many times as you like, for £300. Or you can get
How
a
does that rate to other private gyms?
so generally for-profit gyms are sort of 500 quid or more for an annual pass.
Right,
Um, so it's considerably cheaper.
right.
And there's other tiers from occasional to single use vouchers. So 10 passes packaged into to as a single pass, it will be £75. So £7.50 an entry. Yeah, so there are tiers in the pricing.
And when do you think this gym might exist?
It really depends on the response from the long table. But if it goes ahead, we're hoping to get it up and running by June.
Right.
I think we've got the capacity, the design, and all the hard bits have been solved, like the biometric fingerprint entry for insurance, the super induction model that allows the inductees, the users of it, to be considered as floor walkers, and other things have been worked through already. So it's really just building it and getting it through. Well, so I think it could be quick once we can have the go ahead. Maybe by June, hopefully.
Right. And what attracted you to these commons ideas? How did you find out about them, and what attracted you to them?
Um, well, that's so in short, I guess I was looking for some solutions to the problems, the network of problems that we're facing at the moment for the last 20 years, going down different rabbit holes.
What kind of rabbit holes? What do you mean?
Well, the from more global solutions, policies, energy infrastructures, distribution networks to more community infrastructure, travel infrastructures, to more sort of internal healing of trauma, and other things that link up to make meaningful transition, just and meaningful transition to a more sustainable world.
Right.
Um,
So I'm trying to see the thing. So someone said to me, I mentioned that there was going to possibly be a climbing gym, a commons climbing gym in Stroud, and they said, well, that's not very central. It's not very fundamental to the economy.
mhm.
What would you say to that?
I would say that well, so there are two ways to answer that. One is that we set this up. I thought that it would become a very easy, simple Trojan horse to get the Commons model up and running and people to really see the benefit of it
Like a
in
flagship
affordability
project.
flagship project.
Yeah.
But also, I'm becoming more and more aware that leisure, having fun, is critical in
Actually, yeah.
making
Yeah.
change happen. Health and fitness is the vital sort of foundation on which you can get shit done. Um, and so after spending a year just working at home looking at a screen, my body was just falling apart. So now I'm paying a gym to go and lift weights and run on treadmills and stuff like that, which is horrible. I'd rather climb.
Yeah.
So I think leisure and sports facilities have its place in the much bigger change that we need to
Yeah. It needs to be fun, doesn't it? Yeah.
needs to be fun. Yeah.
What do you see as the biggest barriers and what needs to happen to remove them or get around them?
Um, for us, I think as far as we can project, we think that by end of year two, we will be well into profit. First year is going to be a challenge just to cover all of the capital cost and this operations, but capital cost is covered in the first year, and then from second year it should then go into profit. So we're not as long as we have the membership numbers, and we think we will,
And the
then
research has shown that you will get those members.
yeah, and I think we'll be oversubscribed,
Right.
and we may need to sort of scale up quicker than we'd like. So that's a potential problem there. We but I think hopefully yeah. So another area is that the size of the pilot doesn't justify having a paid staff. Um, and I guess that limits the ability to have open days and other ways for the general public to engage with climbing more often. So that's a limitation of the pilot stage model. Um, And we don't want to rely on volunteers for too long, like a year at max. And we've already spent 2 years with the core group really chipping in thousands and thousands of hours into research. And um, so, yeah, we'd like to transition to a paid model soon, but it really depends on the scaling and sustainably scaling. So that's quite a tricky hurdle to jump through that we can see in the foreseeable future.
And what's the ambition? You like to help people launch something similar in other towns, or would you like a bigger center in Stroud, or both?
Both, not that big. big enough to accommodate for everyone and have full-time paid staff. And that might not be that much bigger than what we envision. And have it accessed by people who may not climb otherwise.
Right.
So that's one aspect of it, more local. The other aspect of it is really the replicability of it. We started Climbing Commons with the core idea that it should be replicable.
Right.
And so a lot of the ideas we had to sort of cut away because we thought it would take too much time or too complex to replicate, and then that would just get shelved. Um, so soon, I think, hopefully, once we have a bit more headspace, we'll put all of the research into a toolkit or a playbook so that other communities who'd like to start it can just follow it ABC and set up a climbing gym and know that it's insurable, it complies with all of the regulatory frameworks, and know exactly, or you can just print out all of the policies and have it ready.
Right.
Uh,
So you're going to provide everything for free of charge?
yeah, of course, yeah.
Free of charge. So anybody watching this who thinks, yeah, I'd like that to happen in my community, they can contact you and you can provide them with the tools to do it.
Not quite there yet,
Not quite there yet.
but I'm happy to jump on a call and chat through. I think hopefully within a year we will have a PDF ready and you can access it, read it, and follow it.
Fantastic. How do people follow what you're up to? You know, your latest news?
At the moment, I've been a bit sort of slack with the blog updates, but if you subscribe on climbingcommons.org, and you can receive monthly newsletters that updates more regularly than the blog posts.
So what's the climbingcommons.org? What's the difference between that site and the Stroud Commons website?
So the the reason why we set up climbingcommons.org was that as we create the models and other towns start to replicate it, we'd love the Stroud Commons climbingcommons.org to be developed well enough that other communities that haven't got the web development capacities can just copy and paste it
Right.
and put climbingcommons.org slash Milton Keynes or wherever you are, you can just use
Right.
it. And then
Okay, so
yeah,
that's a national, it's hopefully going to be a national website in time.
it can be. So that's the idea. Stroud
Right.
Commons, it will be Stroud specific, but climbingcommons.org can be supporting other climbing commons groups that want to do it.
Right. Okay. Okay. And do you need more volunteers in Stroud? How could people help or join in? You're looking for more investors? You're looking for more potential customers and volunteers? Who are you looking for?
Um, right now, it feels like we've got enough volunteers and people willing to help and lined up for helping us. It really comes down to the next sort of crowdfunding stage. And if you'd like this to really succeed, put a bit of money in and
Okay.
help
How do
us
they
get
do?
it
How do
there.
people do that?
I think right now you can go to the website, stroudcommons.org,
Stroudcommons.org. Yeah.
and buy the passes. The Stripe is still active in there, but we will initiate a new round of crowdfunding probably in the next year once the new location is set up and the design is decided. And so that campaign will start soonish.
So tell me. So stroudcommons.org, and
Mhm.
then where do people go?
If you go to pricing, there will be
Oh, is this climbingcommons.org or
climbingcommons.org. Yeah.
climbingcommons.org? Okay. And then go to pricing.
Yeah. and there are sort of tiers available there that you can buy.
Okay.
But if you'd like to become an investor, then just contact me directly, and through the stroudcommons.org site.
Okay, so they can contact you directly through the contact form of stroudcommons.org.
Or climbingcommons.org. We
Or
do check it.
climbingcommons.org.
So
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
whichever is easier, just let us know, and we can chat.
Okay, fantastic. So are you feeling optimistic?
It's been a roller coaster ride, up and down and up and down. But yeah, we've had a chat with the CEO of Association of British Climbing Walls, and she said that we are solving a lot of the issues that the climbing industry have seen as a problem for many years now.
You mean
That
affordability?
affordability, accessibility,
Accessibility.
and the yeah. So it was.
That's encouraging.
It's really encouraging to for person connected to so many climbing, or most of climbing walls in the UK, to see us as doing something really innovative.
It really is innovative, isn't it? Yeah.
So we'd like to yeah, get to a point where we can say this is it, this is working, and take it and run with it other communities.
Okay. Okay, one last random question. Who would you like to see interviewed? What would you like to ask them? Who would you
Specifically related to climbing, or
No,
just
anybody
anyone?
specifically related to the Commons
Well,
or Commons like activities and institutions?
I guess my background is in working for the Organization for Identity and Cultural Development, which is uh, an organization that specializes in human identities and conflict transformation. And I'd love to interview the director to get to the nuts and bolts of how the methodologies and technologies that's been developed for de-radicalization, in de-weaponizing of identities could be utilized to help commons more generally moving forward. There's lots going on in the background at the moment, so
For
yeah.
community cohesion, you mean? That sounds like a great idea. Listen, I'll put links to everything we've talked about in the description underneath the video. And yeah, it's been great talking with you.
Right.
Cheers,
Thanks,
Chik. Bye.
Bye-bye.
If you like our channel, please consider liking this video and subscribing. The more people like our videos and subscribe to our channel, the more the YouTube algorithm will share them. It doesn't cost anything, so please press the like and subscribe buttons. And if you click the bell icon just underneath as well, you'll get a notification when we upload a new video. Thank you.